We hope you are enjoying the live stream and the run of Natalie and Pike from France. They are just in the middle of their drive. Sheep thought they might see the opportunity to take a right and head towards the exit, but Pike has cut them off. But now it is their job to very slowly and securely steer them in the right direction. Really nice to see the connection between Natalie and Pike. Pike is paying a lot of attention to what Natalie is saying, trying to be really precise. Of course, the dog has no idea where the sheep should be going, won't be able to recognize that the target is the grazing area. Pike is a wonderful girl. She's able to work very widely, which is not so common in Belgian Shepherds. She takes wide flanks, wide outruns, and doesn't mind to work quite far away from the flock. Most Belgian Shepherds enjoy to stick their nose into the wool of the sheep, and I'm sure Pike doesn't mind that either, but she's showing very nice work at a much bigger distance than what most Belgian Shepherds do. We don't have any scores back yet. There were some things which had to be clarified by the judges before we could finalize the score. We will come back to you as soon as possible if we have them. But until that time, we are enjoying the run of Natalie and Pike. It's difficult to know who you are, who are watching the live stream. We're not getting any direct feedback. You can't really send us a message very easily. You can send us a personal message via our Facebook page if you like to talk to us, but it's not so easy to talk directly here on YouTube, which means I don't know who you are, I don't know how long you've been watching, and I don't know if you'd like me to repeat certain things of the course. If you don't, then please shut your ears, and if you do, keep listening. I will take some time to go through the different elements of the course so that you know what the judges are looking for. So I'll just start where we are now. The grazing area. We saw Natalie driving the sheep, or actually Pike driving the sheep into the grazing area. So from the green bags more to the left, the dog had to drive the sheep into the grazing area, and the shepherd ideally would remain at the bags until at least the first sheep had entered the grazing area. So we did see the sheep going a little bit too far to the right. Natalie corrected, and in the end they came to the grazing area, and that's where they are now. Natalie has been invited to sit with Judge Laura for a little bit. They're having a chat and a drink, and this way the judges really hope to see independent work from the dog in guarding the sheep in the grazing area. Of course, when the sheep are grazing calmly inside the area away from the borders, there isn't a lot of work for the dog to do, and Natalie and Pike were quite lucky, or perhaps very good in placing the sheep strategically, and they did not have to do much work to keep the sheep inside. Grazing time is 3 minutes, and sheep are showing very nicely that the longer time they get, the bigger the risk of them escaping. I don't think Natalie noticed immediately that the sheep were already across the border. She is coming into action now, but actually the first sheep had crossed the border already for a bit before she started moving. She's decided not to reposition them. That's something that might cost her some points, because the retrieve from the pole where Natalie is going right now should have been from the grazing area. So perhaps the judges will decide to discount some points because the sheep left the grazing area, but look at that. Please Look at that really lovely big outrun that she's doing. Something you don't see a lot in Belgian Shepherds. Very wide outrun. Pretty calm pick up, lift. And now the job is to get the sheep as much as possible in a straight line back to the shepherd. For those of you who watch Border Collie trials every now and then, the rules for the outrun are by far not as strict as in Border Collie trials. The objective is to get the sheep back to the shepherd, and we're much less critical about the way in which it's done. It should be respectful for the sheep, it should be as calm as possible, but those are really the most important elements. So Natalie has seen how her predecessors went and decided to go over to the sorting pen to do something, perhaps to open the sorting gate. Yes, I thought she might do that. She is probably hoping that with the entrance being open, or the exit actually to the alley being open, the sheep might go in a bit easier. But we've seen so far that the sheep really didn't want to go into the sorting funnel, gate, alley, what's the proper word? Natalie's doing a bit of sheep whispering, it seems, making sure she has a very good connection with the sheep, but when she comes there, oof, that is a little bit of missed timing. Just as Natalie was walking back towards the sheep, they wanted to try to follow her, and actually she blocked them. It's extremely tricky work. It seems most of the sheep are now behind the sorting alley.
Dear audience, the score.
We just received the score for Lisa Sarjanen and Linus from Finland. They had a fantastic score of 96% for this run, together with their 82% from the first run. They are now at 534 points. That puts them in provisional 4th place, behind Jitka with Alpha, Tina with Dior, and Jitka with Kai. Of course, some very good teams still to come, so let's wait and see what happens. So Natalie was quite successful in separating the 3 sheep. There was some applause from the audience. Very nice work. And now she is in the middle of the intersection. A nice stop, and it's up to Pike to bring back all the sheep to Natalie. So it's time to reunite the flock now, picking up the 3 separated sheep. They didn't get a very long time to rest. They can come with the rest of the flock now before they go to the vegetation exercise. If you hear some popping every now and then, we have some balloons here, and balloons are suffering a little bit in the warm summer sun. Well, summer, after summer, Indian summer sun. Nobody's getting shots. So you can see the sheep who have just been released are a little bit hesitant. They certainly want to get back to the flock, but Pike is kind of in between. And Natalie probably just called her to take her away out of the line of the sheep. Sheep are really nice and calm. They're grazing. It's a very fluent run so far. Pike and Natalie are such a wonderful team. They work calmly, efficiently. It's great to see them here. So next up, the vegetation exercise. While the square in the middle was a grazing area at first, now it's actually vegetation, and there are no more sheep allowed inside. The dog is allowed inside. No problem for the dog to be there, but no sheep allowed. Of course, the judges would like to see the flock as close as possible to the border without going inside. And it seems to me they are doing a nice job. Here at the end of this exercise, the sheep do tend to veer off a little bit towards the exit, but Pike completely has it covered. No sheep escaping today. Talking about escape, next up is the escape room. All are going in, and let's see if they can all come out. So purpose of the escape room is to have everybody inside in the first part. Judges want to see a lot of self-control and calm behavior by the dog. They don't want to see stressed sheep squished into the corner. Sheep look very relaxed from where I'm sitting, not bunched together. Pike is ignoring them, not looking at them, not moving. And the sheep feel quite comfortable with her in this close area. Turns out, as often is the case, the escape room is closed with a key, with a lock. So Natalie has gone and fetched the key from the audience and is now looking for the right key for the lock. There's a bunch of keys on that keychain, I promise you, at least 10, probably more. And there's at least 5 that could fit this lock. So Natalie had to try a little bit to figure out which one is which. She's allowed to leave the gates open when she exits. Pike thought, I know what's going to happen. Let me just jump the fence. But that's not what Natalie wanted. Pike can just stay there and gently push the sheep out. They're coming out in such a nice, calm way. Basically, like all of the exercises, it's going really easily, fluently. And I'm sure the judges will appreciate that. Natalie doesn't need to close it, but she is still holding a pen, which she kind of forgot, so she goes back and puts it back. But next up is the traffic exercise. Traffic, unfortunately, is just out of view of the camera. We can't change the buildings in the farm, and this was the best camera location for the rest of the trial. But unfortunately, a little bit missing out on the traffic exercise. I'll give you a report on how she's doing. So the judges have asked for, there's a quite wide road which is fenced by a flexi-net. Judges have asked that actually the flock starts heading directly towards the car, and only once the car starts moving, the flock should move to the other side of the road to let the car pass. And we see again continuous fluent movement of the sheep. Car didn't have to stop. So that seems like a really good exercise. Natalie's choosing to go to the left of the escape room. Of course, on the right, the gates are still open. She doesn't want to risk any sheep going inside. And this way, she can position nicely to return to the trailer. Or not really return, she wasn't there yet. But repen is in the trailer. So when all the sheep are in the trailer, or at least on the ramp of the trailer, that's when the time stops. There's a flexi net around the trailer. Natalie's just going in to open it, and the sheep should go in quite easily. They have all day long, but of course they are also aware of the exit of the field more to the left, and they are a little bit on the move because Pike has been so calm and gentle with them. The sheep are quite easy to come back around. They don't even need, Pike doesn't even need to go all the way around the flock to bring them in. And that is such a nice run for Natalie and Pike. I would expect a very, very decent and probably very high score. That's great. Hand of applause.
Hello everybody, I'm back. It guys here. I will try to comment the next runs. At the moment we have Frederica on the field, another Italian competitor. But before they actually started the trial properly, now we're seeing a very lovely exit of the pen. But before they start, I can tell you the results of the previous competitors. So we've seen Eric Peters with Nirvana Prince of Thieves, and he finished his run with a lovely 79%. The total score right now is 469 points. And then the following competitor was Natalie with Pike from France too, and they finished with the score of excellent 92%. Total points 532. Alright, and let's focus on Frederica. And Frederica has lost just a tiny little bit the contact with her flock, which left to see the photographer. So now she's picking them up. And can start her course. So Fosska is taking care of bringing all the sheep together with Frederica nicely through that little slalom around the barrels. So far the flock is well under the control. They're not stopping for grazing, even though they might be already a little tired after trialing for a few days now. So it seems like Fosska has a good pressure on the flock, just about what is needed. And now they are heading towards the stop exercise alongside the fence line. It has not been described by the judges that you would need to really follow the fence line, but perhaps it's some wise idea, definitely for some of the dogs. This will help a little bit to direct the sheep in the correct direction, and also will save a little bit of energy of the dog not to have to control them from both sides at that moment. You can see that in case there is on one side of the flock a fencing, for example, or another type of blockade or barrier, naturally the dog will be on the other side. They feel that the sheep cannot escape on that side, so they will stop moving just behind the flock. They will move to the opposite direction where only the sheep can leave or escape. Now Frederica has asked her Fosska to hold the flock. Unfortunately, the position was not entirely correct and the sheep followed through the stop line. So unfortunately, even though first positioning was right, this will cost them a lot of points on the stop. Now ladies will make a nice turn to prepare themselves for passing the bridge. As with all competitors, and perhaps you can see even on camera, there's a crocodile in the river, which is perhaps is scary for some sheep, and it's helping a little bit with the passage on the left line. Alright, and we have just seen a lovely bridge execution, though the crocodile didn't entirely help and some sheep just passed around it. So I guess some few points lost, but on the other hand, everything is continuing smoothly. And now ladies are reaching another task. First they have to pass through that kind of gate of barrel and the fencing, which is now correctly finished. They should go into the middle in between the three barrels, stabilize themselves there and select two sheep, which later on they will be sorting. For the purpose of sale. So you see a judge nearby that situation. Saskia is waiting there and asking for which sheep Frederica is proposing to sell. And Frederica must remember those sheep so that later on she knows which numbers and which sheep she have to focus on while shedding. They have started right now their drive exercise. It is very obvious that Fosska understands very well this exercise. She's flanking behind the sheep so naturally, so easily, and she's bringing her sheep towards the grazing area in a direct line and in a calm and fluent manner. Because some of the sheep already reached the grazing area and now all of them, Frederica can leave her post and they can continue in a grazing exercise. So that means first of all to stabilize their flock within the 4 poles and also a line or an area which is marked by lines on the ground. As you can see, this is proper 20 to 20 meters area described by the rules. And the sheep are really happy to have some rest and eat peacefully while she's taking care of just guarding the borderline. Although because many flocks have been there already before, the sheep never like to eat a grass which somebody has stepped on, and this is why you can see they are trying to leave for a fresher grass. And now they are unfortunately over the borderline of the grazing, which is quite a strong fault for this type of exercise. So as I was explaining, the more sheep in the same place, the less stable the flock may be, because they will just not find clean and freshly smelling grass anymore, and they will just walk on trying to search for better. And also, while they are this hungry and they really try to find something, and they are not so focused on the dog because it's keeping correctly the pressure off, the sheep will separate from each other, create smaller groups, or even go one by one to different directions. And that's a very complicated situation because the dog has to guard each side of the grazing. Right now the situation seems very stable, so Frederica went to fulfill next part of this exercise to go to speak a little bit with the second judge, with Laura. And now she's bringing some water, at least to offer. Probably no. Seems like Fosska is very much focused on the work, so she doesn't really like to drink right now, but at least to offer was one of the tasks. And now they can watch the sheep together again, just to make sure nobody is passing the line again. This exercise is taking proper 3 minutes. So you can see, even in that short time, many different things can happen with the flock, and there must be an actual work of the shepherd and the dog to take care of the sheep staying in the correct area. And because it's a work of a team, now you have seen Frederica, instead of sending her dog, which would probably create just a little too much of a pressure, she just walked herself towards the sheep to slightly push them off the borderline, not to disturb them that much. But I think there was a sign just a moment ago where the judge has announced the end of this time, of these 3 minutes within the grazing, and now the team can continue to the next exercise, which is the outrun. So first of all, Frederica chooses to reposition the flock within the grazing area. I think it's very important so that the sheep will realize they will continue and it's not the time for grazing anymore. She's also putting them closer to the border, towards the side where from she will be sending Fosska for an outrun. That's a smart decision because she's shortening the distance for Fosska by about 20 meters for the outrun. Although she must be careful that the sheep will not follow her. You see that lifting up by Fosska from that hold position scared the sheep a little bit towards walking away, but not too much, so the sheep is still calm enough. Fosska reached the sheep from behind, but she cut in a little bit too much, though the sheep remained silent and just started to walk calmly towards the handler. I would say slightly off the straight line, but that's not a big issue here. Alright, safely by the handler, and now they can continue to the next exercise, which is the sorting alley. You know, I just been there myself 2 times, so I can tell you guys this sorting alley is a tough cookie. So what you have to do, and you might not see super clearly because, oh, that was a move. Okay, now let's try to describe what's happening, because there's this very, very tiny alley, and you should sort 3 sheep out. 2 of them must be those who you just chose at the start, and you told their numbers to the judge, and then the rest, the third one can be a random sheep. You should not have more than 3, but if you do have 1 extra, it's not a big issue. Though you have to be kind of at one time, you have to be at 2 places at the end to help the dog to direct the sheep into the tiny alley. But at the same time, you have to be at the door, which is just behind the alley, where you direct the sheep or to go into the small enclosure, small pen, or outside to the free grazing area. Ideally, all the sheep should pass through the alley, and just the 3 sheep, 2 selected and 1 extra, should stay in the small round pen. First of all, this requires a good pressure of the dog towards the handler, but also quite a nice distance for the sheep to stay still inside of the alley. And I believe that for the handler to have, I don't know, 4 eyes and like 6 hands to be in correct places at the same time. You can see that Frederica is doing a really, really good job with Fosska, though they have to reposition the sheep again a few times so that they get all the sheep sorted. So right now they have several sheep, I think, inside of the small enclosure. Or is there just 1? It's a little difficult to see from here. That 1 black sheep is just outside on the other side, and the rest of the sheep, okay, there's only 1 sheep sorted right now. Unfortunately, the rest has passed in a wrong direction. Okay, so second sheep I guess is sorted right now. I would say Frederica was a little lucky that the sheep really went to the alley and then she could have closed her to the first sorted one. Now they have to bring their flock back and sort the third sheep. From this position, it's hard to say whether the correct sheep is sorted, but I believe Frederica is taking care of having the right sheep in the small pen. Well, so we can see that the sheep are getting a little annoyed by being driven around this obstacle here and there. So one of them decided to take off a little bit, but Fosska fortunately covered correctly. One more smart move by Frederica you can see, because it was not described by the judges that you should not enter this sorting alley. She was actually drawing the sheep towards herself, walking inside like now so, and kind of pushing the little sheep right there where she needed it. In fact, in normal situation, human should not enter a sorting alley because of course there's a limited space, the sheep are pressed one to each other, you don't want to hurt yourself, but as it was not described as it's not possible by the judges, then of course allowed. And the three sheep are sorted and Frederica is continuing to the next exercise. Actually, we have to think about this situation, because if you imagine you have a young dog which did not experience in the past or does not have strong experience with bringing a sheep away from another sheep, this may be very confusing. And we have seen dogs that were trying to return and bring those three sheep back together with the large flock. So the dog must get accustomed to this situation. We are leaving few sheep here, but yes, okay, we are going to continue with the rest of the flock for some other tasks. Fosska is completely fine with that and no problem to focus on her flock. Now they are reaching the next difficult obstacle. I see one sheep on the right side has passed from outside, not going through the gates that was supposed to, but the rest was passing completely fine. Now they have to enter through a little smaller enclosure here, and towards the rest of the sheep in a small pen they have to stop. All the sheep were inside correctly for the stop, and Fosska was holding the flock so that they do not run towards the three of the sheep waiting in the small sorting pen. And now they have to go back and collect them together again. Oh my god, and it just seems that she forgot to collect the three sheep and she just started the exercise of vegetation. No, okay, now she goes remembering and she must go back for those three sheep which she should have collected. This will cost her also some points, I'm sure, unfortunately. But this is what it is about. You have to also remember your course. This is your task to do so. And as there are many exercises through within the trial, it's very easy to forget some. And I've been there many times, not being sure where exactly to go. You're under pressure, you really want to do the good job, and you're focusing on the next task, and perhaps you just simply forget something. Now we see that Fosska is super cool about the three sheep passing by and joining the large flock. They are properly closing the gate and will lift the sheep up to continue to the exercise of protection of the vegetation. And then there they go, getting ready for the vegetation. So they must pass as close as possible to the grazing area, but no sheep is allowed to go in, and the dog should be inside that grazing area, protecting that from the sheep to enter. So this is very beautiful execution so far by Fosska and Frederica. It's very nice that the sheep is nicely following. They trust Frederica, so they don't intend to leave any further. So Fosska doesn't need to bring them back. Okay, now the situation comes that she will have to correct the sheep in a correct in the direction of movement. But luckily, the sheep weren't spooked to really jump into that vegetation, and I believe the task is quite perfectly completed. 2 tasks until the end. And now these are the special pens with the trick with the lock. So they stabilize their flock right now. Open the gate. I can see that Frederica chose wisely to open outwards and wide enough for all the sheep to nicely pass through and not to have any traffic jam in the gate. Frederica helped the sheep to go inside, but now she's a little stuck in the corner and will have to pass through the sheep. Fosska is gladly going inside, no problem with that. Just she left to the other corner, so Frederica had to hurry with closing the gate so that no sheep escapes. I can't really entirely see Fosska from here, but perhaps she is really calm because the sheep is calm. And this is what the judges are looking at also. It's not so much about what the dog does, it depends on the sheep. If the sheep is relaxed, that means that the dog is working quite correctly. Now, Frederica checked the lock. Of course, it's again closed and locked, so she needs to collect the keys. And the judges are still watching Fosska. If she is staying calm, waiting for her handler to finish her task, not paying so much attention to her. And yes, she is. She's just waiting and checking all her sheep, whether everything's staying calm. Let's see how quickly Frederica can find the correct key. And is she? No, yeah, she got it. Super. Now can start opening the gates. The first one and the second. Fosska still sitting very still and relaxed. She is an experienced dog with good temper, so no problem for her to stay contained for this time. The sheep is just waiting to be allowed to go out. And to follow Frederica outside calmly. Fosska is just waiting there for another command by the handler to walk. And she's allowed to do so now, and they can continue to the exercise of traffic. Alright, I had to go downstairs and see how the exercise of the traffic has been done. And actually, I have to say that it was quite tight before the car where the girls have passed. But it executed correctly. Though Fosska stayed a bit more flanking behind the flock while passing around the car instead of being right at the side of the flock in between the car and the sheep. But everything went smoothly and in a safe manner, so that's the most important. And right now they are reaching the final task, and that is loading to the trailer. Frederica decides completely different strategy than the rest of the handlers. So she allows first the sheep to go inside of that small pen made of netting, and then she's focusing on the sheep to be loaded on the trailer. You can see that these sheep really like to go up there, but still you have to make sure that everybody has their feet on at the same time. And as some of the sheep are really hungry and really want to do some grazing again, it's not entirely easy. Seems that Fosska's losing her nerve there a little bit. Ladies, watch it. And there they are, finished.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, and we are watching the current leader of this World Championship in Class 3, Karin from Czech Republic with her Malinois female Kora. In the first round on Friday, she received amazing 98%. So let's see if she can defend that super high score right now again. At the moment we can see Karin that she is making contact with her flock. Still, the time is not running because she hasn't touched the gate yet. I think she decided that the sheep is quite calm and relaxed about her and about Kora lying there in the corner, and she can go opening the gate and bring her sheep out. Sending Kora, asking her to stop there behind the flock a little bit, and the sheep is coming out nicely in a relaxed way and directly to Karin, which she takes a correct distance from the round pen so that there's enough space for the sheep to settle, Kora to guard the gate so that the sheep does not go backwards. And perhaps they are in slight move, but no, they stay stabilized. They're perhaps a little bit lucky that the sheep on the side didn't decide to walk away. Okay, now they can start their course. Kora seems very enthusiastic about the next day of work. Just watch for that Saint Jacob on the side. I guess the sheep is a little bit thinking about checking whether it can go to look for the doors of the repen with the rest of the flock. But no, Kora is taking good care of bringing the whole flock together with Karin. And the first task is the slalom in between the barrels. First the gate passed correctly. Everybody's going through. And a second gate as well. The flock is in a good pace, even though you see that at each moment where Kora takes a little flank to left and right, the sheep will use the opportunity to put their heads down and start a little bit grazing. So she must be careful to keep a good pressure constantly on the flock so they don't stop and create uneven movement of the flock. So no mistakes at all at the first task, and now they are heading towards the stop line. So Karin's flock is already in a good position because the heads are ahead of her a little bit. So that's a correct solution for the execution of this stop, as the judges has asked this. She has sent Kora. She took the command right away, and the sheep stayed stable. So I see, okay, there was just a tiny little bit of one sheep turning around in wrong direction, but the rest of the sheep followed nicely, so quite perfect execution of the stop. And they are taking a slight turn to prepare themselves to pass the bridge. It seems that Kora has the feeling that the sheep needs a little stronger pressure today, because normally she is walking in quite a trot. Right now she's mostly using her gallop to lead the flock. Karin is taking care of Kora to take off the pressure to make the herd to be kind of longish so that everybody can pass. On the other hand, it's giving few of the sheep at the end some possibility to think about to go around. And then Kora will have a little extra work to just manage all the sheep on the bridge, but she's doing a great job, being very calm and relaxed and flanking on Karin's command correctly, and everybody has just passed perfectly. In my eyes, I think full points for that bridge. Next task, first the gates in between the barrel and the fencing, stabilizing, and then choosing your sheep for the further on exercise of sorting. Sheep is in a correct position, relaxed and calm. Now Kora will maintain them there, while Karin is choosing the right sheep and tells those numbers which are hanging on the necks of the sheep to Saskia, so that later on Saskia can check whether Karin has really sorted out the chosen sheep. Karin is being very precise about keeping the sheep within the marked area while she's choosing. That's why she's sending Kora from right to left, because the sheep is leaving the triangle shaped area. I really wonder which sheep she's gonna choose, really. And there we go. Karin is getting ready for her drive exercise. Kora knows very well what to do, so she's flanking there behind her flock in the correct direction. Karin is giving herself a little bit more space. She can still do a few more steps to support Kora before she reaches that barrel. And that's a good trick, because then the dog has the feeling that you're walking with him, even though you're still within the required space. And now she can't walk anymore if she wants to receive the full point, so she needs to stay by the barrel and Kora has to do the job on her own. But she seems to be very relaxed about the whole situation and just takes good care to calmly bring the sheep forwards towards the grazing area. It's not entirely easy, because those sheep really like to graze, and always if the dog is a little less unsure about the situation, like so, and the handler is staying quite far behind, the sheep will walk just a little less fast and they will start a little bit of grazing. We see that the direction was not completely straight, because they have reached the left pole of the grazing area instead of, say, the middle, but they have gone the distance in a smooth way, so I believe this was quite nice execution of the drive. Now Kora and Karin will need to reposition their flock more into the corner, to the center of the grazing area, so that they can properly start it. All right. Karin decides to settle the heads of the sheep towards the direction where she will speak to the judge, to Laura, in just a moment. They are exiting the grazing area, and that means that the time limit of 3 minutes is started. And now for those 3 minutes they will have to take care of the sheep not leaving the area. And in the meantime, ladies have to speak a little bit with Laura, have a little drink, offer some water to the dog, and watch it. Some sheep just want to go to the fresher grass on the right side, so Karin must take off together with Kora and make a slight move there, push them slightly towards the grazing again. And it actually seems they're quite in the corner, not entirely sure whether they are crossing the line behind, but perhaps not, because they are taking it very easy. Let's see if they will need to do some little push, but it seems no, they are probably within the area correctly, but quite on the edge. So for example, for Karin to be able to now offer the water to Kora, it will be a little more tricky to get back to where Laura is, where the bowl with the water is. Well, they have still enough time to accomplish everything what is needed, so they need to think hard how to do it the best. So you can see ladies have made a little push so that the sheep will change their direction from the borderline again upwards. But although they've done it, the sheep has their own thinking, and they really think the grass on the other side is greener, which is obvious, of course, like we know it from our everyday life. And that means for them to have to come back again and guard that lower borderline. Karin has an extra job which she created for herself, leaving with the cup in her hand, and now she has to take care of not spilling that anywhere. No, I'm kidding, it's just that full hands right now, and Kora must listen basically to the verbal commands. So this grazing is not entirely for free now. The sheep is moving quite a lot around, as we spoke just with the previous competitors, not finding so much of the fresh grass anymore, eating a little bit but being constantly on the move. And actually the time of the grazing is over, and the ladies will now continue to the next task of the outrun. Karin is sitting a little bit just to relax herself, I think. It's good that nobody's checking the heartbeats today anymore. Okay, and there they go again. Little repositioning of the flock to the closer corner, so that the outrun doesn't have to be that far. As far as is allowed, the sheep must stay inside of the grazing area, not be outside behind the line before the dog is sent, but you can take the sheep closer towards the pole where from the dog then later on must be sent. And Karin is leaving the flock, in fact, in a direction of the home pens of the rest of the flock, because I believe she must be a little bit afraid that she will try to leave that direction. So that's why she positioned Kora in that place. Unfortunately, the sheep is moving a little bit, of course, away from the pressure from the dog. So they're right now not entirely inside of the grazing area where they should be, but on the other hand they will move to the safer side. And now Karin is sending Kora out. Kora reaching the back of the flock, and Karin is making very much sure that Kora slows down at the end of the flock to calmly bring them, collect them, and bring them directly towards her. Some sheep are being really little stubborn grazing there, so Kora has a lot of work to push them forward towards Karin. A little bark there to help herself, which is entirely good, to start moving the whole flock. And there she achieved the movement which she was striving for, but these sheep really don't like to accept that pressure and keep on stopping for little grace. Now they reached Karin in a nice and calm manner, and they can continue to the next task, which is sorting alley, where they must sort the 2 sheep which has been chosen in the previous exercise, and then 1 extra. Alright, and there they are at the sorting alley. They're taking it easy at the start, trying to very calmly direct the sheep towards the inside to the alley. Kora must put some pressure to push those sheep inside. They're quite relaxed and they are following Karin. Even she correctly stays from outside of the sorting alley. I think. No, aren't they inside? It's difficult to see from here, but obviously as Karin is bringing the sheep out, it seems that they've, instead of going inside, they've went behind that alley. So she's trying to start over and try again. Karin is trying to make herself an extension of the chute so that the sheep know better where they're supposed to go. But as sheep never like to go to any tiny spaces and narrow areas, of course, this is in their nature, in their gene, because in that situation they are very vulnerable and possibly cannot run from a possible predator. So why would they endanger themselves to go into such alley? There must be quite some pressure from the dog and the handler so that they can direct them into that, for the sheep, quite scary situation. And yet Karin is trying again to put them through the alley. We've seen some dogs and handlers that were able to make the sheep pass through. but definitely also some handlers where the sheep would just not go through that corridor. So it is partially depending on the type of the sheep, whether they are experienced more or less with this, less scared, more scared. Also on the pressure of the dog and the ability to listen precisely to the commands of the handler. Also depends on the skill of the handler to very gently but firmly provide the correct pressure for the sheep to be directed into such situation. So unfortunately, even in this third try, the sheep are turning their heads away from the alley, which is then starting to be again quite a difficult situation to direct them to walk in there. So now, if I'm correct, Karin has decided to try to help the sheep to follow her so that she step inside of the alley herself, and once few sheep at least are in, she's trying to gently get out and ask Kora to push a little bit, but look at with her movement of the feet around across the hurdles, the sheep turns around again, and they are not precisely yet walking where Karin wants them to. Karin is trying to use a gentle push by her own hands, which is allowed, of course. As in everyday life, you would also help your dog with that kind of situation. Any handler, if they need to interact with their sheep, should not pull on the wool or on the horns. They need to just gently touch the sheep if necessary. I believe that Karin should be very careful to watch her time. She's spending quite some time at this exercise, which is okay, but then she will have to hurry to finish the entire course on time. And one more try to put those bloody sheep into the alley. And finally, Karin decides to move on and to help herself with finishing this exercise in a slightly different way, because these sheep will just not move for her in the way she wants through the alley, and she needs to continue to the next exercise just after sorting the 3 sheep out. So now she just has gone with the entire flock near the small round pen. She will have to catch manually with the help of Kora the 2 sheep that are required and 1 extra sheep, and just pen them into that small enclosure. In the meantime, Kora will have to work around the flock so that nobody walks away or escapes. Unfortunately, I am sure they have lost quite some energy trying to get them correctly through the alley. So they must be now very careful to be focused, not to do any further mistakes. Seems like Karin is searching for the second sheep she has chosen. Let's hope she remembers which one it was. Kora is correctly helping her to hold the flock with her. She's being very relaxed, even though they have been working on one spot for quite some time. This is not an easy exercise for any dog. Alright, there she is. Karin just saw her sheep. Caught it right there. First try. Seems like Kora wants to check whether this is actually the correct number. So 2 of them are there. And 1 more needs to be caught and penned. And there she goes out again. Unfortunately, she was trying very hard to push through the gate before Karin was able to close it. And I think Karin has chosen a very heavy sheep and is struggling with pulling it into that enclosure. I have to say these sheep are in a very, very good condition, so it's not entirely easy to fight them when you are 55 kilo lady or something. Perhaps it would be easier if Karin has chosen the small ones, but there's a strategy behind this, so I hope they can manage. So I think the second sheep is in now, and 1 more to go, and then they can continue. Okay, 3 sheep inside. Karin is properly closing the gate with the rod. And now finally they can continue for the next task. Now Kora has to lift the sheep away from the rest in the small enclosure. And that's no problem at all for her. Oh, and there goes 1 sheep jumping that penning and is thinking about coming and joining the rest of the flock. It's not completely sure because of course there's Kora in between. Kora sees the sheep there. Okay, and the sheep joins the flock. And this is not the fault of the dog. Some of the sheep can jump the fencing, and the truth is that the fencing of this little enclosure is slightly low, so for some types of the sheep it's quite easy to jump it. And you know that the draft of the large flock for a few sheep being left behind is quite strong, so it's worth it for that 1 sheep just to join the rest of the group. Now Karin with the rest of the sheep is passing through the gates. First one done very, very well. Now they pass through the side, and they must stabilize the flock inside while Kora will execute a stop in between the 3 sheep, or actually 2 sheep, which are penned in front of her. And after the stop, Kora is asked to bring the sheep out again and to go together lift the 3 sheep which are just waiting for them to be collected. And now there she is collecting the 2 left sheep in the small enclosure. Kora is cool about the sheep joining the rest of the flock and waiting for Karin to close the gate properly. And they are lifting their flock, and they need to hurry up so that they can finish all the rest of the task on time. Right now, they will have to settle the whole movement and get ready for the exercise of protection of vegetation. They are making a good move just to turn well enough before they reach the line of the grazing area, which is the forbidden area for the sheep, and it's the space where the dog is supposed to move. Sheep should be the closest possible to the grazing area but not inside, while the dog is supposed to walk inside the grazing area on the side of the flock. Right now, very nice execution of this task, and the sheep is following nicely. Kora is making sure, but by just slight look at the sheep at the end, that everybody follows correctly and nobody stays grazing behind. This is a difficult corner, but the sheep is following Karin nicely, and Kora making sure that she can be. Kora is making sure that everybody follows, but still she's coming back to the grazing area to protect it. Of course, in these situations, the dog doesn't often understand, but needs to be very well on command by the handlers so that he goes to the correct place. Good execution by Karin, and they have still now 3 tasks to go, and you just heard the ring bell perhaps. That means that only 5 minutes left until the end of the trial. Very nice and very fluent stabilization of the flock in front of the pen. Karin is trying to hurry a little bit, asking Kora now to bring the sheep into the pen. Kora is very focused and calm and is working as much as she can to bring those sheep back. But the sheep is not so much cooperating anymore, and they are waiting outside. Perhaps they know that again outside is better grass than inside of the small pen where everybody has been walking around and around so many times. And they are correctly inside. Karin needs to close the gates, while Kora also stays inside with the sheep. Kora is totally wagging her tail. This is gonna be fun exercise, I think, Mom. So, what are we gonna do? Karin is leaving her in the corner where she will be able to see her while she goes to collect the key to open the gate. Kora is very patiently waiting there, watching Karin run away, and she's probably thinking like, where are you going? We have the sheep to work here. Karin is hurrying up, and she's gonna have that fun game of finding the correct key to open the lock. Kora stood up, but she's patiently waiting for Karin to do her job. So that's a very nice work of the dog. Karin not yet having that one bloody key. Now with the lack of the time, this must be terrible amount of stress there, and now she has that open and she can continue. Opening the gate, Kora patiently waiting again, probably thinking what's the next task to be done. Second gate opened by Karin, and now she will allow the sheep to go through with her outside, and Kora very correctly and very efficiently, just on her own, Kora picks up the sheep flock and continues to the next task, which is the traffic. Give me a moment, I'm gonna have a look and then I'll tell you how it's done. All right, so they have just done the traffic exercise and it was done fluently, quite fluently. There was one slowdown of the flock somewhere by at the moment of passing, and Karin is now trying to really do it on time, not to hear the bell ringing just when they are penning, because that will cost them a lot of points, just that repen. So she's trying hard to just get them all on the trailer in time. It's gonna be last seconds, and we're just counting every moment, and those bloody sheep just will not want to load because they want to eat. Karin is using her possibility. Oh, and it's now is the time. Now is the time. Is it? Was it not? Everybody on the... Oh, okay, so it was not the time she finished, and massive seconds to the end. Hello, everybody, and we are here again with the very last competitor of the FMBB Sheep Herding World Championship of Belgian Shepherds 2025. The second edition, full of lovely dogs in all three classes, all four varieties, 7 different countries. Very finals going on now. It's the turn of the second round of Magali from France with her dog. Oh, she's very happy to make her poo, making friends, checking all the field, and there we have to go to work. And there we go. They are ready. Now Magali is making contact with her flock before she touches the gate and starts her run. The sheep really seem to like Magali and they follow her even without the pressure of Neva. Neva is waiting patiently behind the pen. Now she stood up a little bit because she feels that they can perhaps soon start going. Magali is asking her to go back to lie down, which she listens to, and now Magali can open her gate for the flock to exit. And the gate is open, sheep nicely calmly following, and Neva still in her lie down position, waiting. And in the meantime, we have heard the results here of Karin. I am not really sure because I don't have the number in my hand, but it's very simple because Karin is taking the first place right now, followed by Alpha and Itka from Czech Republic, and then the next one on the third place right now is the Finnish team Tina and her girl. But let's focus now on Magali, the last competitor. They have nicely and calmly exited the round pen, closed the gate, and they need to collect their flock now and start going. But unfortunately, This sheep just doesn't want to. Oi. Neva is trying to correct the sheep from running away. Sheep is back to her flock. And Magali is trying to get a nice and steady pace for the walk and to settle Neva. And now the first exercise to be executed is the slalom. First gate correctly passed by all the sheep. Second gate also. Neva's putting a little bit more of the pressure on the sheep so that she makes sure everybody follows correctly. Next gate also good. And the last gate also. So this exercise is quite okay. Correctly passed. And now they are heading towards the stop line through the corner of the field. And now they are reaching the stop line, which is at the two orange barrels with an imaginary road behind them. So the sheep, while Magali is standing a bit behind of the flock or in the middle of it, she must send Neva, and she just goes there directly on the stop line, which is a correct position. She takes her sit, but unfortunately doesn't hold it now well enough. Magali is trying to ask her to go back to her position, but Neva is being just a little impatient here, though the flock is standing calmly and correctly. Magali is asking Neva to lift the sheep up and continue in her walk, which has just been done. And now they have to focus and get ready for the bridge. Magali is taking it quite wide to prepare herself for a nice straight direction to reach the bridge. And asking Neva to release her pressure from the flock so that they can easily pass. And it's obvious to see that as Magali is asking Neva to take off the pressure, the sheep feels that situation and they start grazing. Now they can restart their movement, and hopefully everything will stay calm for until behind the bridge. So far so good. Seems that everybody on the bridge, including Neva, and perfectly passed. Neva seems to be very happy about her accomplishment. And now Magali needs to take good care about continue in a relaxed way again. Good job. And now they are heading for the next task, passing in between the barrel and netting, stabilization in between the three barrels, selecting the two sheep for a later on exercise of sorting. Correctly passing through the barrels. Now watch this. Neva is trying to correct that little sheep. And unfortunately, this run is ended with Nedaba trying to correct this sheep with a bite. Not too harsh, but unfortunately unacceptable. Thank you very much, Magali. And everybody, let's have a look on the final results very soon. Thank you for watching.